One moment on this relationship shocked viewers so much that many people paused the episode and asked the same question. Did that really happen on television? An awkward accident in the bed turned a normal relationship scene into one of the most uncomfortable moments fans of 90 Day Fiancé have ever watched. The room went silent. Daniel's face looked frozen. The tension felt heavy. What should have been a private mistake suddenly became public embarrassment. For most couples, a moment like that ends the relationship on the spot. Pride gets hurt. Attraction disappears. People walk away. Yet something strange happened next. Daniel did not explode in anger. He did not storm out of the room. He did not even look shocked for long. His reaction felt almost calm, almost controlled, like someone forcing patience in a situation where patience made no sense. That reaction raised the first uncomfortable question. Why stay? Before we go any further, welcome back to Sister Wives Daily. I'm Sarah. If you enjoy honest commentary on reality TV relationships, hit subscribe and join the conversation. And while you watch, tell me in the comments something important. If you were in Daniel's place and something this humiliating happened on camera, would you stay or walk away? Because most viewers expected him to leave. Think about the situation for a second. A deeply embarrassing accident happens. Cameras are rolling. Millions of viewers will eventually watch the moment. The emotional damage alone could destroy any romance instantly. Yet Daniel stayed. He kept talking calmly. He kept trying to smooth over the tension. His body language looked less like shock and more like someone quietly enduring something unpleasant. And that is where the story begins to get interesting. When someone tolerates humiliation in a relationship, people start searching for a reason. Love is the obvious explanation. Strong feelings make people forgive things they normally would never accept. But love was not the only theory floating around among viewers. Another idea started spreading in fan discussions. Some people wondered if Daniel had a different motivation for staying in the relationship, something bigger than the embarrassment he had just experienced. Opportunity, because on this show, relationships often come with another factor in the background. Immigration, the possibility of moving to America, the promise of a new life. Nobody said it directly on screen. But the suspicion started growing. Was Daniel staying because he loved Lisa, or was he staying because leaving would cost him something valuable? The truth is, that awkward moment in the bed was only the surface of a much deeper problem. What looked like simple humiliation quickly turned into something else entirely. Because as the story continued, viewers slowly began realizing that this relationship was built on far more than awkward accidents. Secrets were already sitting in the background. And once those secrets started appearing, the embarrassment from that night suddenly looked like the least shocking part of the entire relationship. Once the shock from that moment faded, another layer of the relationship started becoming clearer. The deeper issue was never one awkward accident. The real tension sat in the way these two people viewed relationships in the first place. Daniel often spoke about values with a serious tone. Tradition mattered to him. Respect mattered. Family reputation mattered. When he talked about relationships, his words carried weight. Marriage, in his view, was not a casual decision. It carried responsibility toward family, culture, and personal honor. That mindset shaped how he judged everything happening around him. Actions had meaning. Choices had consequences. A relationship was supposed to reflect stability and respect. Lisa lived in a completely different rhythm. Her lifestyle, her personality, and the way she approached relationships seemed far more relaxed. The past she openly discussed did not always match the strict expectations Daniel described. She spoke freely. She reacted emotionally. She approached problems with intensity instead of quiet restraint. When you place those two personalities side by side, something begins to feel confusing. How did these two people even reach the point of dating? Because the difference between them was not small. This was not a simple disagreement about hobbies or daily routines. This was a difference in worldview. One person spoke about honor and moral structure. The other person lived with far fewer boundaries around personal choices. Viewers noticed the mismatch almost immediately. Sometimes the tension showed in small moments. Daniel would bring up respect or tradition. Lisa would respond with frustration or confusion. Their conversations often felt like two people speaking different emotional languages. Yet despite all of this, Daniel continued trying to make the relationship work. That is where the situation became puzzling. Normally, when someone with strict values meets a partner whose lifestyle clashes with those values, the relationship ends quickly. The internal conflict becomes too strong. But Daniel did not walk away. Even after the embarrassing accident, even after moments where their personalities clashed, he stayed. And when someone keeps staying through situations that feel uncomfortable, people start asking deeper questions. Maybe he believed the relationship could improve with time. Maybe he believed love was worth the effort. That explanation sounds reasonable. But another possibility also entered the conversation among viewers: the future. Because this relationship did not exist in a vacuum. One partner lived in the United States. The other partner lived far away. Anyone familiar with this show knows what that dynamic often brings into the discussion: immigration. The chance to move to America. A completely different life. Again, nobody made a direct accusation at that stage, but fans watching the episodes started connecting small details. Daniel talked about patience. He talked about enduring difficulty. He talked about long-term plans. And when you combine patience with opportunity, the situation begins to look complicated. Was he staying because the relationship meant everything to him? Or was he staying because walking away would mean losing something larger than the relationship itself? That question did not have an answer yet. But while viewers debated those possibilities, another issue quietly waited in the background. Something that had nothing to do with cultural values or awkward accidents. A secret about Lisa's past. And once that detail started coming into the light, the entire relationship shifted in a direction nobody expected. The story takes a sharp turn when one detail about Lisa's past starts coming into focus. At first, the information appears small, almost like a technical issue. Something about paperwork. Something about a previous relationship that had not fully closed. Then, the truth lands. Lisa was still legally married. For many viewers, that moment changes the entire storyline. Up to that point, the biggest problem looked like embarrassment and awkward chemistry. Now the situation touches something much deeper: honesty, trust, commitment. For Daniel, this detail carries even more weight. Remember the way he talks about relationships, tradition, morality, respect for family. In his worldview, marriage is not a casual label you forget to update. Marriage means responsibility. Marriage means loyalty. Being involved with someone who still holds that legal bond with another partner crosses a serious line in the value system he claims to follow. So the emotional shift becomes obvious. The earlier humiliation begins to fade into the background. What replaces it is something heavier, a feeling that the foundation of the relationship might not be honest. Daniel starts asking quiet questions. His tone stays calm on camera, but his expression looks different. The kind of expression people have when they realize new information does not match the story they believed earlier. And when trust starts cracking, even small details begin to feel suspicious. Viewers notice this shift immediately. Some fans react with anger toward Lisa. They argue that being legally married while starting a new relationship shows dishonesty. From that perspective, Daniel becomes the victim of someone hiding critical information. But not everyone sees the situation that way. Another group of viewers raises a different question. They wonder whether Daniel ignored warning signs from the beginning. Lisa had never presented herself as someone living inside strict traditional expectations. Her personality, her openness about her past, even her lifestyle suggested complexity. So some people begin asking whether Daniel chose to overlook those signals because the relationship offered something valuable in the future. Two completely different interpretations start forming at the same time. One version shows Lisa hiding the truth and Daniel discovering the betrayal step by step. The other version suggests Daniel accepted contradictions early because leaving the relationship might close a door he wanted to keep open. Neither side has clear proof yet. But once the topic of honesty enters a relationship, everything changes. Every conversation feels different. Every explanation sounds slightly less convincing. Every emotional reaction gets analyzed for hidden meaning. That is exactly what begins happening here. Daniel questions how long the legal marriage situation existed. Lisa tries to explain the complexity of legal processes and delayed paperwork. Both of them talk, but the tension between them grows heavier. Trust starts slipping away piece by piece. And once that trust weakens, the relationship moves into dangerous territory. Because the next stage in almost every damaged relationship looks the same. Accusations begin to appear. Once accusations enter a relationship, the tone changes overnight. Conversations stop sounding like two people trying to solve a problem. They start sounding like two people building a case against each other. That shift happens quickly here. Daniel feels deceived after learning Lisa was still legally married. His calm attitude from earlier moments begins to fade. The trust he tried to maintain starts slipping. From his perspective, the situation is simple. If someone begins a serious relationship while still tied to another marriage on paper, honesty becomes the first casualty. Lisa pushes back. Instead of accepting all the blame, she begins questioning Daniel's intentions. Her frustration comes out in emotional bursts. Tears appear. The tension builds. And suddenly, the conversation moves in a completely different direction. The green card accusation enters the room. Lisa suggests Daniel might not be staying for love at all. She hints that immigration benefits could be the real motivation behind his patience. In her mind, his willingness to tolerate embarrassment, cultural clashes, and now the legal marriage situation begins to look suspicious. The moment that accusation lands, the power balance changes. Because now, Daniel is not the only one defending himself. He responds by questioning Lisa's honesty more directly. If she kept something as major as a legal marriage hidden, what else might she be hiding? His frustration shows in the way he speaks. The earlier calm attitude looks strained. The emotional distance between them becomes easier to see. This is the point where the relationship stops feeling romantic. Instead of two people trying to understand each other, the dynamic starts looking strategic. Each conversation turns into a quiet negotiation. One person trying to prove loyalty, the other person trying to defend intentions. Viewers watching the episode begin asking a new question. Is anyone in this relationship completely innocent because both sides now carry suspicion? Lisa faces criticism for hiding major details about her past. Daniel faces skepticism about why he continues staying in a situation filled with embarrassment and conflict. When trust collapses like this, the emotional connection between two people often gets replaced by calculation. Every reaction becomes a move. Every explanation becomes a defense. That is why the story suddenly feels darker. The earlier humiliation looked awkward, but harmless. Now the relationship feels like two people protecting their own interests, while pretending everything still revolves around love. But the story still holds another surprise. Even after the legal marriage revelation and the green card accusations, one important detail about Lisa's past has not fully entered the conversation yet. That detail sits quietly in the background while the relationship struggles to survive. And once it comes out, the tension between Lisa and Daniel could become even more explosive. Because the truth about her previous marriage carries a meaning Daniel might find difficult to accept. The story grows heavier once another piece of Lisa's past comes closer to the surface. Up to this point, Daniel already struggles with one shock. Learning she remained legally married during the start of their relationship already damaged the trust between them. Yet another detail sits quietly behind that first revelation. Lisa had once been married to a woman. This fact carries a different kind of weight in the context of their relationship. For many viewers watching the show, this information might not feel shocking on its own. People live different lives. Relationships take different forms. Personal history rarely fits into simple boxes. But Daniel does not view relationships through that lens. From everything he expresses on screen, his worldview sits firmly inside traditional expectations. Marriage, in his mind, follows a specific structure passed down through family and culture. A man and a woman build a household. Family honor connects to those choices. Moral boundaries shape how relationships begin and how they end. That framework forms the foundation of how he judges the world around him. So when the idea of Lisa previously being married to a woman enters the picture, the tension does not come from judgment alone. The tension comes from collision. Two completely different ways of understanding relationships suddenly occupy the same space. Lisa's personal history reflects freedom in her choices. Her past shows someone who explored relationships without those strict cultural rules guiding every step. Daniel's beliefs reflect something else entirely. Structure, tradition, boundaries that rarely bend. When those two realities meet, confusion begins. Some viewers begin asking whether Lisa intentionally avoided explaining this part of her past earlier in the relationship. The question becomes unavoidable. Did she fear Daniel's reaction? Did she believe revealing it too soon might end the relationship immediately? Other viewers focus on Daniel instead. They wonder how he might respond once he fully processes what this information means. Up to this point, his frustration already grew after discovering the legal marriage situation. Adding another layer of hidden history could push that frustration into something stronger. Right now, the situation sits in a fragile space. Daniel knows parts of Lisa's past, but may not fully understand the deeper implications yet. That gap between partial knowledge and full understanding creates quiet tension under every conversation they have. Because once someone starts discovering hidden details step by step, a pattern forms in their mind. One secret leads to another. Trust becomes harder to rebuild. Even honest explanations begin to sound incomplete. While all of this tension builds around Daniel's reaction, Lisa begins showing signs of something else entirely. Fear. Her emotional responses grow stronger as the relationship becomes more unstable. She starts crying more during difficult conversations. Her voice sounds desperate when she asks Daniel not to leave. The calm tone from earlier moments disappears. The possibility of losing him suddenly feels real to her. And that desperation begins to change the emotional atmosphere between them. The emotional pressure starts showing on Lisa more clearly as the situation becomes harder to control. Her reactions shift from frustration to visible panic. During several moments on camera, her voice cracks while speaking to Daniel. Tears come quickly. Words stumble out in a rush. She keeps asking him not to leave, almost like someone trying to hold together a relationship that already feels like it is slipping away. Those scenes become difficult to watch for many viewers. At one point, she calls family members while crying, searching for support. The conversations sound less like casual updates and more like someone looking for reassurance that everything will not collapse. The fear of losing Daniel hangs over every word she says. Then another pattern appears during the most tense conversations. Alcohol enters the picture. Instead of calming the atmosphere, it pushes emotions higher. The arguments become louder. The explanations become more chaotic. When people are already overwhelmed, alcohol rarely brings clarity. It tends to amplify whatever feelings were already building under the surface. And that is exactly what viewers begin noticing. Lisa's emotions move quickly from sadness to frustration. One moment she pleads with Daniel to understand her side. The next moment her tone turns defensive, almost angry at the idea that he might walk away. This emotional roller coaster splits the audience once again. Some viewers see someone whose heart is breaking on camera. From that perspective, Lisa looks like a person terrified of losing someone she genuinely cares about. The crying, the pleading, the frantic phone calls to family all look like raw emotions spilling out under pressure. Other viewers interpret those same moments differently. They see manipulation. To them, the tears and desperate language look less like heartbreak and more like an attempt to control the situation emotionally. When logic stops working in an argument, emotion often becomes the last strategy people reach for. Both interpretations exist at the same time among the audience watching, but while Lisa's emotions grow louder, Daniel's behavior continues raising the same question viewers asked from the beginning. Why is he still here? By this stage, the list of problems has grown long. First, the humiliating accident. Then, the discovery of the legal marriage. Then, the growing tension about honesty. Now, the emotional breakdowns and chaotic arguments. Most people would have left long ago. Yet Daniel remains. His reactions stay measured. Sometimes he looks frustrated. Sometimes he looks exhausted. But he continues standing in the middle of the situation instead of walking away. That persistence keeps feeding the suspicion many viewers already discussed earlier. When someone tolerates humiliation, emotional chaos, and repeated conflict, people naturally start searching for the deeper motivation behind that patience. Love remains one possibility. But another possibility still lingers in the background. Opportunity. Because if Daniel believes enduring this relationship might eventually lead to a better future in the United States, then the humiliation he experiences now might look like a temporary price to pay. That possibility continues hanging in the air while the relationship grows more unstable. And as the arguments keep piling up, the embarrassment that once shocked viewers at the beginning of this story starts feeling like only the first piece of a much larger pattern of humiliation. By now, the relationship looks less like a romance and more like a careful negotiation. Every argument, every emotional moment, every tear and apology starts to feel like it has a purpose beyond what's visible on camera. The longer the story unfolds, the more viewers begin to ask the same uncomfortable question: what are these two people really after? On one hand, Lisa is clearly trying to hold on to the connection she believes exists. Every phone call, every tearful plea, every frantic conversation with family feels like someone clinging to a relationship that gives her emotional stability. She is desperate to maintain a sense of security, someone to lean on when the stress of life feels overwhelming. From her perspective, losing Daniel could mean losing more than a partner. It could mean losing a lifeline she's been relying on to validate herself emotionally. Daniel's behavior, though calmer on the surface, starts to look strategic in a different way. He endures repeated embarrassment, emotional breakdowns, and revelations that would break most people's patience. At first, viewers might interpret this as patience or even commitment. But with the context of every secret, every deception, every layer of tension, it starts to raise another possibility. What if Daniel's endurance has a motivation beyond love? What if he is tolerating chaos for a personal reward, something that might improve his life in a way he values more than the day-to-day discomfort of the relationship? When you watch the show with that lens, the dynamic between them transforms. Every tear Lisa sheds doesn't just evoke sympathy, it also becomes a potential lever she's using to maintain the relationship. Every long pause from Daniel isn't just frustration, it could be calculation, weighing each moment against the outcome he wants. And suddenly, the scenes that once looked like normal couples drama take on a completely new meaning. This reinterpretation reframes every earlier moment. The humiliation of the first accident isn't just shocking, it's a test. The legal marriage revelation isn't just a betrayal, it's a complication Daniel might be tolerating for the chance at a future opportunity. The pleading, the phone calls, the alcohol-fueled arguments, they all start to look like pieces of a much more transactional puzzle. It doesn't necessarily mean either person is intentionally malicious. Humans are complicated. People enter relationships for survival, security, love, validation, or opportunity, and sometimes multiple motives exist at once. But the pattern here is undeniable. Lisa and Daniel seem to be gaining completely different things from the same arrangement. And that dissonance creates tension that explodes on camera. And just when it seems the story has revealed every secret, another one quietly sits in the shadows. The last hidden truth hasn't surfaced yet. The detail that could change everything for Daniel. And for viewers trying to make sense of the chaos. Every tear, every argument, every moment of humiliation now feels like part of a bigger strategy. But what happens when the final secret finally comes out? That moment is still waiting. And when it arrives, it could shatter whatever fragile balance remains between them. By now, the story has carried viewers through humiliation, secrets, accusations, and emotional chaos that most couples never experience in a lifetime. The bed incident was shocking, but it was only the opening act of a relationship filled with complications that go far beyond embarrassment. Each layer of revelation, Lisa's legal marriage, her previous same-sex marriage, the tears, the begging, the emotional pleas, has forced both Daniel and the audience to question what this relationship was really about. Was it love, or was it survival? That question has hovered over every scene, growing heavier with each passing moment. Lisa's desperation shows a person clinging to emotional stability, trying to hold on to someone who represents validation and connection. Daniel's patience, measured but unbroken, raises suspicions of a man enduring humiliation and betrayal for something he hopes to gain. A better life, a chance at opportunity, or maybe even love. Every gesture, every argument, every heartbreak starts to feel layered with dual motives, and that complexity is what keeps viewers glued to the screen. Sarah here, welcoming you to Sister Wives Daily. If you haven't already, subscribe and comment below. Tell me what you think Daniel is really after. Is it love or something else entirely? Even as the relationship teeters on the edge, there's an undeniable pull in watching two people navigate conflicting worlds. Daniel's strict moral framework clashes with Lisa's past, and the contrast is not just cultural, it's personal. Every secret, every withheld truth becomes a mirror reflecting their mismatched expectations. And as much as Lisa tries to mend the cracks with tears and promises, the weight of those hidden truths makes repair almost impossible. The audience is left in the same place Daniel is, trying to read intentions through chaos. Was Lisa intentionally deceptive or just overwhelmed by her past? Is Daniel genuinely patient or calculating every moment to his advantage? Neither answer feels completely satisfying, and that uncertainty is exactly what fuels the drama. Even now, with accusations flying and trust eroded, the final secret has yet to fully surface. The truth about Lisa's previous marriage still hangs in the background, waiting to test Daniel's worldview and patience to its limits. When that revelation finally lands, the reaction could change everything viewers have assumed about the relationship. By the time we reach that point, every earlier scene, the humiliation, the crying, the accusations, takes on a new meaning. What seemed like ordinary conflict now reads like a complicated negotiation between two people trying to hold on to very different goals. The question that began this journey comes back stronger than ever. Was there ever real love here? Or was it survival, strategy, and opportunity disguised as romance? And as this chapter closes, one thing is clear. Even with everything revealed, the story is far from over. The relationship hangs by a thread, and the final truth could trigger a cascade of drama no one saw coming. So what happens when Daniel finally processes Lisa's full past? And which couple in the 90-Day Fiancé franchise is about to shock fans next with secrets, betrayal, and emotional chaos? That's exactly where we pick up in the next video.